Direct from San Francisco, California. In the heart of the Tenderloin. Welcome to the Kiff and Ang Podcsat. San Francisco Lockdown Edition. A subsidiary of Kiff and Ang Productions in association with Kiff and Ang Studios. Online at kiffandangpodcast.com. And now, Kiff and Ang.
Speaking of official, we are official. We're officially on Patreon, patreon.com/Kiff and Ang Productions, or is it Kiff and Ang Podcast?
It's Kiff and Ang Podcast at Patreon. If you just go to the patreon.com page and you search creators, you can find us at Kiff and Ang Podcast.
That's right. It's Kiff with a K because my parents were hippies.
And F, Kiff, not Kiff.
Oh, what'd you call it? How dare you? We are talking about the Golden Dragon Massacre.
Dun, dun, dun.
Now, have you ever eaten at the Golden Dragon restaurant in San Francisco? They renamed it though, didn't they? They renamed it.
I have not eaten there. It's funny because when I was doing the research for this episode, I looked at the picture of the Golden Dragon, and the restaurant that I had in my mind for many years that I thought it is not.
It's not that one.
So I don't know if they've changed the name. I haven't really been looking at that restaurant because it's just, I don't know.
Now you live in the Tenderloin, and you're not the kind of person that doesn't make friends with their neighbors. And you've made friends with somebody who's actually a San Francisco tour guide in Chinatown.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who turned you, and he's the one who really turned you on about this story, right? What did he say? What does he say about Chinatown?
Well, first of all, I have to say that the original place that I heard the story was like 20 years ago on A&E. What we're going to talk about today is not a singular moment. There was continuous things that led up to it and that happened after it. There was a lot of gang warfare in Chinatown in the 70s. And my friend, the tour guide, going back to what you mentioned, told me that since this massacre, you don't hear about stuff in Chinatown happening. And he says that it's because it's all underground now, literally underground.
So it's all still kind of there and going on, but we just, the regular Joe Schmoes.
Exactly. You can walk into Chinatown and be a tourist and normal people, and there's a doorway, and that doorway leads down into a gambling den, or it leads down into a place of prostitution. He said it's very well masked.
What?
And so, well, hey, he was a tour guide, and maybe he's a limo driver too. So he probably gets a lot of like some great gossip from good sources too. So I'm just going to say,
I love those kind of anecdotal stories.
Totally. And he's a totally outgoing guy. So let's be more specific. What we're talking about today is the Golden Dragon Massacre, and the Golden Dragon is a restaurant in Chinatown. And when the last check that I did, it did still exist. We're not sure if it changed names, but it's still a restaurant that is functioning in Chinatown today. So it's on where is it here? It's near Washington and Grant.
I know I've seen it. I've probably, So we'll paint a picture.
Yeah.
Let's go back to autumn 1977. Chinatown, San Francisco, where rival Chinatown gangs, the Joe Boys, and I'm saying it wrong, so I totally ask your forgiveness, the Washing Gang clashed.
People died. So here's the thing, is this restaurant is not only a favorite place of the Watching Boys, or the Watching, not Joe Boys. I don't want to confuse it.
No, right.
The favorite place for the Watching leadership to hang out and to dine at, but it was also on the tour stop for people, tourists coming to San Francisco. So
it was a big gang hub, and it was a tourist stop.
And so we're talking like, there's between 50 and 100 people in this restaurant when this goes down. And it wasn't a spur of the moment thing. It wasn't like the Joe Boys went by one day and went, oh, they're in there, got 'em.
There was some background to it. There was some incidents and a very, very San Francisco thing happened when they couldn't find parking.
This
One of the gangs couldn't find parking, and the rival gang spotted them coming.
Well, it's stuff like, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's that easy. It stemmed actually from a feud that dated back to 1969. So the Watching guys are kind of, or were kind of in charge of like the Richmond and the Sunset District, even though they're, they come to Chinatown because they are Chinese, culturally Chinese based. And the Joe Boys were Chinatown gang. And they had a couple of different things happen. Different people got shot, and so there was like a retaliation for different shootings that went on. And so they decided the ultimate retaliation would be to just end it by killing the Watching leadership in the Golden Dragon. They had meetings, they collected weapons, they discussed how they were going to do it, who was going to drive the car.
Yeah.
Now, here's the really shocking part to all of this. We're talking about 17, 18, and 19-year-old guys.
What about them?
They're 17 years old, 18 years old, 19 years old. That's what we're talking about here.
The kids who were involved in the shooting.
Yes. This is
Young
not
people.
I mean,
it's not like the gangsters, it's not like the mob,
it's
the
not
mafia.
it's not like, people are going to think like, oh, this is triad stuff or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking like,
No.
this is some sort of Scorsese needs to get on this.
No,
but it's
no.
a little different. It's young people. Okay.
Yeah. So they're, probably inexperienced at, restaurant massacres. And here's the one thing I think that really stands out about the story to me is, like in every movie you see like Scarface when they bust into the crowded discotheque or the bar or wherever, and they're going to shoot the guys, they come in and they fire in the air and everybody sort of runs away except the bad guys. I don't know why bad guys don't run away when you fire in the air, but apparently in the movies they don't.
Well, they're ready to fight. They're bad.
Right. They're like, apparently, I don't know. So the Joe Boys had actually discussed, we're going to go in there and somebody's going to shoot a couple bullets in the ceiling and everybody's going to duck and then we're going to hit the leadership. And they charged in the restaurant and that didn't happen. Adrenaline.
So they literally thought that it was going to be like the movies, that they'd shoot into the air, everybody duck, and they'd automatically know who the bad guys were, like a Scorsese movie.
Well, but it didn't even go down that way.
No, they got too nervous.
They got too nervous.
And
they
I
just,
get that, man. Oh.
They just ran in the restaurant. Now, we all know the bad guys don't sit right near the front door. They're always in the back. But so the Joe Boys go into the Golden Dragon and just start opening fire. And as a result, 5 completely innocent people were killed. 11 completely innocent people were injured. No one that was affiliated with the Watching gang was shot.
It was all innocent people.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And
these are kids.
What a disaster.
And it's kids that did it, so now we got 9 people in total. It went, there's 5 guys that are at the shootout, but there was like 4 other guys that were involved in acquiring weapons or doing this or doing that with the plot. And 3 of them are just straight up minors, One of them became a witness for the prosecution. His role was so minor that was the exchange they made. And it was not a witness protection kind of thing. It wasn't that I could find.
Calling this the season of snitches is what it seems like. All these big cases, like they do really rely on that one.
They do, and that's there's
loose chain.
The more people that are involved. The first 2 things we've talked about have had numbers of people involved.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do it alone, I don't know. So. Look. Yeah. So again, going back to these were kids, and I'm
If
not
you
making.
if you are a criminal trying to get away with things and you've been listening to our podcast and are using our advice, make sure to join us on patreon.com/Kiff and Ang Podcast.
Because
The
we can
criminal
afford.
VIP patrons only $8 a month.
Oh God. They're secret shows.
The secret shows on how to
They
commit
tell all.
crimes. Don't listen to Kiff and Ans. They don't
No,
know how to commit
don't.
crimes.
We're
All
not
right, fine.
master criminals
And
at
I,
all.
I feel kind of silly for laughing. And sometimes you just have to when you read and dive into really horrific things like this, sometimes just that's the natural human response is you just kind of have to chuckle. Anyway,
You do,
please,
and
yeah.
time passes, and we're certainly not trying to offend anybody
Yeah, because
or
there's still survivors
anything
out there who live in
in
San Francisco.
trauma,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah. But back to the guys who committed the crime, which, in my opinion, again, I refer to as kids.
They were kids.
Um, they were fortunate. There was 3 tried as minors, so I'm assuming,
Three
there's
tried
not
as minors. Yeah.
since there's not information available, that they must have been released at the very latest by the age of 21, I believe, in the state of California. If I'm wrong, please feel free to comment. If I've offended you, I apologize, but please feel free to comment. If you love the show, really, we would love you to comment. But so back to these guys. So they've all been pretty much they've been paroled, and they're out of jail. And it's been more than 40 years since this crime happened.
Still.
There's at least one of the members, and I can't recall which one, has really, I think I guess would it I think it would be Curtis Tam.
It's as far as I know, it's Curtis Tam who's actually kind of
He's the
become
one
a
who,
pillar.
yeah, he's become, a real essential part of the community in Chinatown, and
The Chinatown community.
rehabilitating any of the criminal element that existed at that time, or preventing the criminal element that might occur at this time.
I'm all for
There
that.
Now, after saying that, I have to say, Kiff, that there have been those that question if that is not just a official profile or optic that he would like to present to the world.
And you think some people
I don't think
you've
let
heard
me
that.
be perfectly clear
As
that
a resident of San Francisco, you've anecdotally heard that.
I have heard comments made that perhaps that might be the case. But I don't live in that neighborhood, and I can tell you that the Tenderloin is such a fine dynamic that I cannot begin to imagine
Now
the
listen, Angela, if you're
dynamic
going to
and
start
politics of
telling me that
Chinatown.
there are politics and politicians and gangs and stuff all intermixed in San Francisco, well, I think you're crazy.
Right? I'm just out of my head. Not like any other city in the United States. No. But when it comes down to it, I really feel like, compared to the 70s now, I mean, things have really come to change, and we're dealing with a different kind of criminal element, like most cities are, than the gangs that we're talking about in this.
It's interesting to me that I was just thinking about how things are intertwined. And you were saying that anecdotally you've heard that the stuff still exists and it's just gone underground.
Yeah.
And you think about those Scorsese movies and you watch the evolution of those bad boy young people into actually sort of respectable elders. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so you
well,
do kind of
that's
wonder about our current
Godfather.
generation of politicians and their past. And then not just San Francisco, but all over the world. And this is just a very interesting microcosm of how that happens.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's something, it like suddenly becomes part of the gene.
Yeah.
The gene pool.
Yeah.
I think of that. She must have been a niece or something of the Italian dictator from World War II, who was also a porn actress that got elected to the Italian
Oh
Senate.
yeah. I was thinking
Yeah.
of Kennedy, but that's just me.
No. All right. So I think this is a wrap. I think we had
Become an official patron at patreon.com/Kiff and Ang Podcast. Your money will go to getting us better internet connections so we can more better socially distance and bring you this quality information. Patreon.com/Kiff and Ang Podcast or kiffandangpodcast.com. And that's got blogs and should have links to videos, and it's got all of our audio, correct?
yes. And also there is
I did
a
it.
members only section on our website that is for our top level patrons, and there you get a taste of Secret San Francisco. So if you really think this is interesting, wait until
Members only.
wait until you check out the members only section of our website. And I'm just going to list some other places our podcast is
Mars wants to say
real
hi.
quick.
He's my studio cat.
That is Mars of Mars Studios. So we are on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and I believe Google Podcasts. And so really all you need to do is just Google Kiff and Ang, and we're like right there.
KIFFINY and.
Yeah.
The opinions and topics discussed in any Kiff and Ang production or show are meant to be controversial, provocative, and possibly create a conversation that is not already being had. The most important thing to remember about this production is that it has zero educational or historical value other than from a purely popular parody perspective. By listening to this podcast, you understand that it is solely for entertainment purposes. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, parody, scholarship, and research. Kiff and Ang Productions is meant to provide parody in an already difficult life. If you find no humor or entertainment in our productions, well, for goodness sakes, don't listen.